the opening of more than 26,000 savings bank account per day, rupees 6,400 crore of pre-approved personal loans, and 13,000 crore of agri-gold loans have been sanctioned with the help of YONO. We are now focused on graduating to YONO 2.0, the new digital bank, with the objective of maintaining competitive edge and leadership in the digital banking space. We are very proud of our subsidiaries because the kind of value which they have created, not only for us, but also for our customers, is something which is phenomenal. Most of our subsidiaries have scale and are leaders in their respective segment. We will continue to nurture these subsidiaries and see them creating value for their shareholders as well as for the shareholders of SBI. Overall, it has been a good performance, but with the support of each and every member of the team SBI, I'm quite optimistic and confident of improving our performance going forward. With these remarks, now I open the forum for questions. Thank you.
Just a second. I request all the media representatives to raise hands, introduce yourself, and then ask questions. Due to shortage of time, we'll allow only 2 questions at a time. Okay. Alik, you can continue.
Let somebody...
Hi, I'm Alik from Informist Media. NIMs have been flat on a quarter-on-quarter basis. With this interest rates hike, overall interest rates increasing, where do you see NIMs panning out in FY23? And also the mix of MCLR and external benchmark. Yeah, one more question, sir. On the Russia impact, is there been any impact on your overseas exposure? That's it.
Sure. First question, which is relating to NIMs. I must mention that I think I'll start with the composition of the book. As far as the composition of book is concerned, almost about 75% of the book is linked to either MCLR or EBLR or Treasury bill. So normally in such a scenario when the interest rates are on the rise, we have got the advantage because the loans are getting repriced from time to time. But when it comes to the deposit, they always go up with a lag. So I think I expect that it should have positive impact going forward as far as the NIMs of the bank are concerned. EBLR, in fact, 11% is our Treasury bill link, and I think repo link is 22%.
Joel?
No, I think the other question relating to the Ukraine and Russia-Ukraine conflict. As far as our international operations are concerned, we have got a presence in Russia through a subsidiary, but it's a very small balance sheet as compared to our overseas balance sheet, which is almost about 60 billion. I think it is just about 100 million odd balance sheet. So it's a very, very small balance sheet. I don't think it will have any impact as far as our international book is concerned.
So this is Joel Rebello. I work for the Economic Times. We expected that the personal loan book will grow, but surprisingly the foreign office advances have grown quite well. Also the corporate loans. Can you give us some details of where this growth is coming from the corporate as well as the foreign office? Second question on the ROE. You said 15%. You're at 13 now. When do you expect to
We're at 13.92.
9.2. So yeah. Almost 14.
So there's a difference between 13 and 13.
Sorry, I didn't hear the 9.2. But 15 by when? So these are the 2 questions.
We had set a target by the year 2024 for 15. So I'm quite confident the kind of growth which we have witnessed, about 398 basis point improvement in a year. So that gives us the confidence that we should be in a position to achieve it much before the targeted date. Yeah. Yeah, corporate loan, and you mentioned about corporate loan. Our as far as retail personal is concerned, the CAGR is about 16% as far as retail personal loan is concerned. So it has grown almost about 11% plus in the current year also. Overseas book has grown by about 15% plus. So that is what it has happened. And as far as the corporate is concerned, from the third quarter onward, we have started seeing the traction in the corporate. The corporate book has grown well, almost about 1 lakh. 6.35% for the full year, considering the fact that the first 2 quarters there was hardly any growth in the corporate book. As far as going forward, I would like to mention that almost about we have seen the much better capacity utilization in terms of the working capital. The working capital utilization has improved almost to the extent of about 56%, which was just about 50% in the last quarter. So this is the kind of an improvement which I've seen. But we still have the unutilized portion of almost about 4 lakh crore, both in terms of the working capital and also when it comes to term loan. In term loan also, our unutilized portion is just about 19-20% now. So if I look at the unutilized portion of the working capital and the term loan and also the proposals which are in pipeline, we have a visibility of almost about 4.6 trillion worth of loan proposal. Foreign offices have grown because we have entered into a new line of business, which is factoring. And in the factoring, we have opened the geographies, particularly in UK and US, both the locations. And that is the reason why we have grown well, because of the new line of activity.
Yes, sir.
Maybe you can add.
So just to supplement what sir has said, we have grown in local loans, which are loans essentially given there or to Indian companies, and also in the trade finance. Trade finance includes the supply chain and factoring, which sir was referring. In fact, we have degrown in the external commercial borrowings because most of the corporates were basically paying back. So the growth numbers for trade were almost 26% YOY, and local loans were almost 16%. These two together, so net about 15% growth.
Ritu?
Your restructured book plus slippages, you'd given us a guidance for doing better than 2% for the full year. Given the trajectory that we've seen significant improvement in asset quality as well. What is the sort of target you have for this year? Also, credit growth at 11%, I mean, that's the kind of numbers we've been seeing across industry. Credit growth has been stronger in the fourth quarter. Going ahead with this 4.6 trillion in the pipeline, also putting together retail, what is the overall credit growth that SBI could deliver?
Normally, we don't give any kind of future scenario outlook. We don't really articulate. But nevertheless, the kind of trend which I have seen till now in the current year also, we have seen that our loan book is growing faster than the deposit book. So I think that is something which gives me some kind of a confidence that perhaps we should continue to see the kind of loan growth which we have seen in the past, both in retail as well as in corporate side also.
On the 2% target for slippages and restructuring, how significantly?
I think as far as our restructured book is concerned, it is about 30,000 odd crore, and which is actually less than 1.1% of our total loan book. And even for that also, we have adequate provisions which we have kept. In fact, I would like to mention that in our provisions, you will see a number which is almost about 7,900 crore, which was earlier the COVID-related provision, and now we have actually put it the provision for the restructured book. And the restructured book is behaving pretty well, I must mention, because when it comes to even home loans also, there we have seen a situation where people have started repaying even the restructured book, and many of them have come back to their normal schedules also. So I expect that the kind of guidance which you had given in terms of slippages to be kept in check, we should be in a position to maintain that.
And you've also said in terms of your subsidiaries, they've scaled, they've become leaders in their specific industries, and you'll continue to handhold them. But any monetization plans? We know there are some in the offing, but what would be first off the block?
No, see, the point is that we have to be very mindful of the market realities. We have nurtured these subsidiaries well, and we would like to take them to the market route at the appropriate time.
Nupur?
Hi, sir. Nupur Anand from Reuters. I just had a couple of questions. You mentioned about the digital bank, and it had been mentioned earlier that there's a plan to make it into a separate entity.
No, I have not said ever.
There were some.
I think you might be at some point in time there might be some thinking, but I have not said ever.
Okay. Are there any plans around that to make?
See, the point is I would like to mention that it's a delivery platform for us. So it's a delivery platform, and we would like to sweat it for creating value for the main bank itself.
Okay, so there's no plan as such to make it into.
We have no such plan.
Okay, fair.
We would rather like to build the muscle in the bank and create value for all our stakeholders,
right,
including customers.
So also just wanted to understand that, in the press release you've mentioned that there are plans to improve income streams and also control costs. I just wanted to understand a bit more about that. What are these income streams that we're referring to, and what are the plans in which you'd probably like to cut costs further?
See, if you look at our cost structure, in that cost structure, about 40% are salary and advances, 40% are overhead, and about 16 to 18% is our pension cost. That is how this is all stacked up. About 17% is our pension liability. And this 17% is an unusual component, which is not there with many of our competitors. So what we are attempting is, we are now setting up, for which we have already got the in-principle approval from Reserve Bank of India, for setting up an operational support subsidiary. And that is something which we feel will help us in containing the cost. And also it will free up the hands on ground, which can be put to use for much more productive purposes. So you would have seen in the results that we have already witnessed an increase in cross-selling income by almost about 30%. But if you really ask me, the potential is huge. Considering the fact that we have got a huge network of branches across the country, we can probably be the best of the distributor when it comes to all other financial sector products, which needs penetration. So hopefully with the hands which will be freed up, it will actually augment our cross-selling income much more. We have already reached about 2,900 crore worth of cross-selling income, but we would like to see it growing even faster. So that's what we are really working on. And as far as operational support subsidiary is concerned, we have the in-principle approval, and we are working on this on this plan, and hopefully we'll get to see that coming on ground in this financial year itself, maybe towards the second half.
Just one question I'd like to throw in, sir. Overall slippages have come down, obviously, but I see that agri slippages continue to remain slightly elevated. I just wanted to understand, what is the thought process around that, and also on agri lending in general, sir?
Part of it is also attributed to the macroeconomy and more so the rural stress, which is generally seen across. But I would like to mention that hopefully with the better monsoons in this year, hopefully we should have an improvement in the recovery climate there also. Having said that, I would also like to mention that we are also getting into the co-financing, co-lending kind of an arrangement, which generally we have seen that the co-lending partners have got much better experience in terms of the quality of book, and we'll be riding on that, and we'll see that our agri portfolio should also improve. No, co-lending for agri, for SME also, for low value ticket loans also. We have tied up with some of the partners, and hopefully it happened only in the later half of the last year. We hope that in the current year we should be in a position to really sweat this asset fully going forward.
Sir, Brajesh from Z Business. सर कॉर्पोरेट लोन बुक के बारे में आपने बताया कि ग्रोथ अच्छी है, एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हैं सर कहाँ से ये लोन डिमांड आ रही, किन सेक्टर से, और कहाँ से और एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं कि ये इम्प्रूव होगी? एक सवाल ये है. दूसरा सवाल ये कि सर जो बेसिक सेविंग्स अकाउंट पर जो इंटरेस्ट देते हैं आप, उसमें क्या कोई कंसिडरेशन है कि उसको बढ़ाया जा सकता है अभी जिस हिसाब से चल रहा है इन्फ्लेशन और बाकी चीज़ों को देखते हुए? एनी कंसिडरेशन?
देखिए, जहाँ तक कॉर्पोरेट लोन बुक का सवाल है, जो अभी तक हमने जो ग्रोथ देखी है उसमें काफ़ी कुछ जो है इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर रिलेटेड ग्रोथ है, जो कि इसमें अभी नहीं आया. जैसे हम लोगों ने कुछ एविएशन सेक्टर में भी ग्रोथ आया है, जो कि आप सबको मालूम है कि जो एक मेजर डील हुई थी उसमें हम लोगों ने सपोर्ट किया है. आने वाले दिनों में हम लोगों ने ऑलरेडी सैंक्शन किया है, एयरपोर्ट्स के लिए भी सैंक्शन किया है, पोर्ट्स के लिए भी सैंक्शन किया है. इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर रिलेटेड बहुत सी एक्टिविटीज़ हैं जिसमें हम फाइनेंस करने वाले हैं. और जहाँ तक मैं समझता हूँ, हमारा जो अनयूटिलाइज वर्किंग कैपिटल फैसिलिटी अभी पड़ी हुई है 2 लाख करोड़ के करीब, और जिसमें कि कंसिडरिंग द कैपेसिटी यूटिलाइजेशन जो कि अभी 70% के करीब है, 72% के करीब है, अगर इकोनॉमी का कैपेसिटी यूटिलाइजेशन इम्प्रूव होगा तो हमें पूरी उम्मीद है कि ये जो हमारा अनयूटिलाइज वर्किंग कैपिटल फैसिलिटी है ये पूरा यूटिलाइज हो जाएगा. दैट इज़ वन सोर्स. दूसरा, जो 19% के करीब जो हमारा जो टर्म लोन सैंक्शन किए हुए हैं उनकी अवेलमेंट होगा, उससे भी जो है होगा. और तकरीबन 65,000-60,000 करोड़ के करीब के जो हमारे पास प्रपोजल ऑलरेडी प्रोसेसिंग में हैं, उनसे भी ग्रोथ आएगा. तो हमें पूरी उम्मीद है कि आने वाले दिनों में कॉर्पोरेट क्रेडिट के ग्रोथ के लिए अच्छे क्लाइमेट बनेगा।
बेसिक सेविंग्स अकाउंट
सेविंग्स अकाउंट के विषय में अभी हमारे एसेट लेवल अल्को कमेटी में इस बारे में जब विचार होगा तभी हम कुछ इस बारे में बता पाएंगे आपको।
Vishwanath, please continue.
So, quick question on the one of the notes in your results said that you've increased your investment in the Geo Payments Bank, while the stake hasn't changed. I'm just trying to understand if that bank has really not taken off. Is the plan to now push it and make it into a viable payments bank?
So we are a minor partner in that. Majority partner has to take a final call. But as of now, the way they are also putting in capital, I think the plan is not yet sure. It is very much active.
Okay. And on the second part, your retail book has grown about 10 lakh crore now during this quarter.
It has grown up to 10 lakh crore.
Okay. It got a little more than that. But the question is it's still being driven a lot by home loans and personal loans. So is there...
No, it is driven by home loan, personal loan, pension loans, and also education loans. So I think it's a very well diversified book, and the best part is that the quality of the book is exceptional.
Okay, so you're not seeing any kind of pressures from...
We don't see any pressure. We are very closely monitoring, and even the stress which was there in quarter 3, even that has also come down.
Last question, I know you answered Bridget's question about where the corporate credit growth is coming from, but are we now at least seeing some kind of fresh investments, or is this all still very working capital driven, very brownfield expansion?
See, as far as demand component in the economy is concerned, so long as it is there is bound to be a situation where investments will happen. So that is what I very firmly believe, and we have actually seen. Last year we have seen excellent growth in exports, and similarly, the kind of sectors where there used to be hardly any activity, which was textile, we have seen a lot of interest in the textile sector. This year also, the way things are evolving, I think it is going to be a scenario where there is going to be a demand into all kind of infrastructure requirements. So we are quite hopeful that we'll witness a strong demand from the corporate side also, and also in SME, because the supply chain has to be balanced. So that also will also create the demand for the credit.
Ankur?
Hi sir, Ankur Mishra from ET Now. First question, sir, in your notes to account, point number 20, there is a mention of 5,230 crore provisioning of fraud account. Has it been done in this quarter or over the quarters? First one. Second, sir, about YONO, you had planned to upgrade YONO. Where does it stand now? There was an RFRP which was floated. So what is the plan there?
I will answer the second question first. As far as when the RFP was floated, the teams are already working on it. And as far as the first question, whether the provision has been created for the fraud, maybe I will ask Alok to answer on that.
एक सवाल मैं हिंदी में पूछना चाहूँगा। आपने वैसे तो बोला कि आप नंबर नहीं देंगे आगे के गाइडेंस का कि किस तरीके की क्रेडिट ग्रोथ होगी, लेकिन इस बार 11% ग्रो हुआ है। अंदाज़ा लगाने के लिए आप क्या बोल सकते हैं कि अगली बार जब ग्रोथ होगी ये पूरे साल में, तो वो इस बार से ज़्यादा होगी, तो किस तरीके से उसको आंका जाए?
हमारी कोशिश ये रहेगी कि जो नंबर हमने अचीव कर लिया उससे हम आगे बढ़ें, उससे पीछे ना जाए।
Zaloni. Mike.
So mine is a largely macro question. So we are meeting at a time when the interest rate cycle has turned. There would be good and bad benefits coming out of it. But largely, we are expecting that the RBI will continue to move, the repo rate higher. And considering that a large part of the banking system loan is linked to our repo-linked rates, you feel that there will be more pressure on, especially the SME or the retail segment who are more prone towards, feeling difficulty when the rate cycle turns?
Okay, in order to answer this question, I would like to bring in a comparative. When it comes to the personal loans, what is the yardstick for us? It is the NMI, EMI to NMI ratio. Okay. Suppose if the interest rates go up also, but the salaries are also likely to be pre-COVID level, increase in salary is going to be pre-COVID level. If at all that is the kind of a situation, EMI NMI ratio is going to be to the advantage of the customer. Fine. That is one as far as individual and the personal loans are concerned. Second aspect would be for the corporates. We have worked out a study where we have seen that the interest cost for any corporate will actually vary from anything from 8% to 15% of the total cost. And this increase which is going to happen, say you assume even 1% also. Earlier they were borrowing at about 8%, now they will borrow at about 9%. So 1 upon 8, that is the kind of an increase. So how much will it really impact? As I understand the situation, it is all function of demand. If at all there is a demand, there is going to be a capacity, there is going to be production, there is going to be loans. And I think for an economy like ours, which is actually a developing economy, inflation to some extent is a positive. Because in the inflationary conditions, if you leverage, it is to the advantage of the customer, maybe corporate or maybe retail. So I think that's how I really read the situation.
Thank you, sir.
I don't think it is a matter of a lot of concern about anybody. Yes, optically when it goes up by 40 basis point, it gives an impression that probably it's a shock. But overall, when you will look into the overall context, it may not be.
Sir, Shayan Ghosh from Mint. So you had earlier spoken about mispricing of risk on a couple of occasions. Now that we are in a rising interest rate scenario, are you still seeing that kind of competition for a single account, or those kind of wafer-thin margins that bankers have been talking about?
Well, yes, of course, I spoke about the mispricing of risk about 9 months back. I do recall that. And I think that was a point of time when it was required to be stated. Now, as far as the current scenario is concerned, we'll have to wait and watch because the movement in interest rates have been seen only in the recent past. I think let us wait and watch. We'll have to, and I think it should not be there anymore. This is what my broad assessment is, but we'll have to wait and watch.
Right. So the second thing is, in terms of a recent loan offer that you had given for LIC IPO for the employees, what kind of traction have you seen there, sir?
We saw a decent trend. Maybe you can answer this.
I think the numbers are still to be compiled, but I think broadly whoever wanted the loan was made available. I think it is also important that the employees had adequate funding. So they have not resorted to the loans in a big manner. That is what we see.
Hamsini.
Hi, sir. Hamsini from the Hindu Business Line. This is with respect to the corporate loans. There's been a reasonable amount of undercutting, underpricing on the corporate side, largely from the private banks on the government business. And you've also refrained from it up until Q3. This quarter, we're seeing some amount of growth on that segment. So what is your overall view on the corporate space? And do you believe that the kind of prices that is right now is sustainable, or we'll have to come back to where we were somewhere in early 2019 levels?
See, the pricing is also a function of the liquidity in the system. So the recent attempt of RBI to increase the repo also will be sucking about 87,000 crore out of the excess liquidity which was there, about 5.7 trillion. So I think as the liquidity gets rebalanced in the system, perhaps the pressure on the loan for the banks may not be as high. So I think perhaps it will lead to some kind of a readjustment of the pricing, and maybe the corporate loans will be rightly priced.
We've had a round of repo hike very recently, last week. Since then, how have inquiries for personal loans, retail loans been? And we're expecting another 75 basis points of increase over the course of the year. So how do you expect demand to pan out, and where are the segments you're seeing still very buoyant demand?
See, I think in the previous question also, I just gave you a broad idea that how the willingness of the retail borrowers to borrow will depend upon their monthly income, net monthly income. And if at all they have a felt need for a house, they will certainly go for the mortgage. they have a felt need for a white good, they will certainly go for the personal loans. So I think as far as the demand side is concerned, we have not seen demand abating. Am I right?
I'll just tell you, one thing is, as Chairman has mentioned, there is a good margin on the NMI EMI. That means, the household individual debt seems to be still lower. And the need for homes and, that is continuing. And we had both for the month of March and the Q4 as a whole, we had one of the highest sourcing of home loans and the highest disbursements ever witnessed. So I think the demand is going to be there. As we mentioned, the debt level in terms of the EMI, NMI is still comfortable in the overall system. At least among the target group, what we are looking for.
Just to add to Hamsini before I give it back to her, we're going to see a very sharp increase in interest rates this year, and I think many of them are not expecting wages to also improve. So 100, 200 basis points increase in interest rate, I mean, will customers be able to really, because this is the first time we're going to see a sharp increase in interest rates. So there is a lot of concern that, especially among retail borrowers, will they be able to repay?
So in terms of payment of the existing loans, I don't think we have any concern. Obviously, we'll have to wait and watch what kind of investments will happen as we go forward. If the lower rate of interest obviously have driven the home sales, right? So I think it's appropriate to wait for a couple of quarters and see how it plays out.
Hitesh, sir.
So what is your exposure to Future Group and Shree Group, and what is the status of these loans?
I normally don't discuss account in particular, but I will just make a statement, and both these accounts are fully provided for in the books of the bank.
Anurag.
Also, what is your exposure to Sri Lanka, because that is also apart from Russia?
Whatever exposure we have to Sri Lanka, it is all Government of India guaranteed.
Okay. And how much would that be?
Specifics I would not know, but it is all Government of India guaranteed. You should be satisfied with that.
Anurag.
नमस्ते सर, अनुराग फ्रॉम जी बिजनेस। सर, अभी आपने अपने शुरुआती संबोधन में योनो 2.0 की बात करी, तो वो कितना अलग होगा, क्या उसकी खूबियां होगी, क्योंकि योनो आपके ग्राहकों के बीच में काफ़ी पॉपुलर है, तो थोड़ा उसके बारे में बता पाए। और सर, जिस तरह से आप देश के सबसे बड़े बैंक है, हर भारतीय के बैंक हैं, और अभी रिजर्व बैंक ने 40 बेसिस पॉइंट की जो बढ़ोतरी की, तो पूरे साल में आपका क्या आकलन है, अनुमान है कि कितनी बढ़ोतरी हो सकती है? और जिस तरह से आप कह रहे हैं कि अगर ये बढ़ोतरी और होती भी है, तो जो रिटेल लोन वगैरह में आपको लगता है डिमांड उतनी बनी रहेगी, उस पर कोई ज़्यादा असर नहीं पड़ेगा?
जहाँ तक योनो 2.0 का सवाल है, इसमें योनो 2.0 in terms of functionality, it will be more customer friendly. Apart from that, as of now, YONO is only for our existing customers, ETB. Our effort, our focus in YONO 2.0 will be for new to bank also. YONO for every Indian, that is what we are trying to do. जैसे गूगल पे वगैरह में जो है, आप अगर बैंक के कस्टमर नहीं भी हैं, तो आप जो है आउटसाइड द ऐप जो है आप अपनी ट्रांजैक्शन कर सकते हैं। उसी तरह की फंक्शनैलिटी हम योनो 2.0 में बिल्डअप कर रहे हैं।
सर, यानी जिस तरह से 40 करोड़ SBI के धारक है वही कर सकते हैं, तो अभी 100 करोड़ जो भारतीय
पूरा हिंदुस्तान भर में, इट इज एज वी आर बैंकर टू एवरी इंडियन, योनो विल बी एन ऐप फॉर एवरी इंडियन।
सर, एक और चीज, जिस तरह से हमने LIC के IPO में देखा कि जो SBI की शाखाएं थी देश भर की, वहां पर बढ़ चढ़ के प्रचार हुआ था, बैनर वगैरह लगाए गए थे कि जो पॉलिसी होल्डर्स है उनको भी आप 9% पर लोन दे रहे थे, तो उसका किस तरह का प्रतिशत मिला, या उसके कोई आंकड़े हैं? क्योंकि एम्प्लॉय का तो अभी आपने एक सवाल के जवाब में बताया कि काफी अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स मिला, लेकिन पॉलिसी होल्डर थे, उनको किस तरह का लोन बांटा गया LIC के IPO के लिए?
So the policy holders have received it well. Almost 35,000 policy holders have utilized. The total loan amount aggregating around more than 400 crores have been given to the policy holders.
सर वो इंटरेस्ट रेट वाला जवाब रह गया।
इंटरेस्ट रेट में जहाँ तक आपका सवाल है, जो अभी इंक्रीज किया जा रहा है उससे तकरीबन 87,000 करोड़ सक करने की बात हो रही है। देखिए ये दोनों, इट विल बी अ फंक्शन ऑफ द इन्फ्लेशन ऑल्सो, एंड इन्फ्लेशन इज ऑल्सो ए फंक्शन ऑफ द ग्लोबल मैक्रो, एंड to be more precise, it is a function of the kind of situation which is currently prevailing in Russia, Ukraine. So I think if at all, in our case, in case of India, it's more of an imported inflation, edible oil plus crude oil. So if at all this gets addressed, crude oil and edible oil inflation gets addressed, perhaps considering the fact that we have adequate capacity which is available to be tapped, there is no reason for inflation. And if at all, ये क्योंकि it's a moving parts, these are all moving parts, how inflation will really move, and probably those will be the guiding factor for RBI also to decide in terms of. So I think they very closely monitor the inflation prints, and based on that they take a call. It is very difficult for us as a bank to really predict what will be the outcome going forward. हमारा एक कॉल को भी हो गया है, every month it happens. हमने जो चेंज किया वो हमने ऑलरेडी इन्फॉर्म कर दिया है।
Hi sir, Siddhi here from Money Control. I just wanted an update on the bad bank and by when it will start taking bad assets, because it was supposed to happen by March 31st.
Bad bank is, I think we expect that, maybe is Swami there, Swami? We expect that it should happen soon, but update by Swaminathan can share.
Yeah, the process of identification of accounts and due diligence is almost done, and the information that we have is they are in the final lap of getting their approvals ready in terms of making offers to, binding offers to the banks. So we expect that that's something which is only probably a weeks away from being done. Weeks, maybe a couple of weeks. Couple of weeks away. Couple of weeks away.
We will now move to chorus because we have.
No, I think one question she wanted to ask.
Achha.
Yeah, taking off on the NARCL question, we understand that there were some vacancies that were to be filled, and
it is already filled, ma'am.
All of them have been
filled.
Yeah,
all of them have
been filled.
Okay. The selection process has been done for all the managerial positions. Some of them will require regulatory approval before being onboarded, so they are currently in that process. So that also we expect in the next week to 10 days they will complete those processes.
So Anand from Business Today. So you mentioned about the current inflation as being, imported inflation, and we are also witnessing, some depreciation on the currency side. Are you hinting at or expecting some relief from the government in terms of, cut in excise duty or import duties?
I'm not privy to any such information, so I'll not be in a position to comment.
The war in Ukraine has led to a lot of sanctions imposed on Russia. This has also led to supply chain disruptions. How you're helping your clients to deal with the situation, and have you got any feedback from them?
No, see, the point is that this is a given situation, whatever sanctions has happened, and we have to ensure that the transactions which we carry out, they should be strictly in accordance with the whatever is the law of the land. So it has to be in compliance with that only. Whatever can be done for the clients, it will be in line with whatever is possible, which can be done.
We would now like to move to chorus. We have people waiting here. There for the. Can you hear us?
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Manju from Indian Banking News. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, you were talking about a sanction pipeline, unutilized sanction pipeline about 4.65 trillion. Could you just explain that a bit more?
No, see, the point is what I mentioned was that the unutilized working capital facility is almost about 2 lakh crore. And similarly, the unavailed working capital loan and also the new proposals which are under process. All put together, we have got a visibility of 4.60 lakh crore.
Okay. So this is a request from the companies.
These are the requests. 60,000 is a request, and the earlier one which I mentioned, they are all already sanctioned and which await to be disbursed. And once the disbursements are availed, then it can go up.
Okay. So, and other question that I wanted to ask you was, now with the interest rate regime moving, I mean, interest rates hardening, what is the impact you're going to see on your book? Will you have an advantage of NIMs, or will it set off because will it net off because
can you please repeat your question? We are unable to hear you. There is a lot of distortion in the voice.
No, I'm asking you, with the interest rate scenario changing, interest rates hardening, what is the impact going to be on your book?
I think as far as our book is concerned, we hope that it should be positive.
Could you explain? But you will also have to raise deposit rates, huh?
Pardon?
You will also have to increase deposit rates, huh? You already increased your bulk deposit rates. You will also have to increase your other deposit rates.
No, normally there is always a lag between the deposit rate increase and the ability to charge interest rate on the loans. So that is why there will be a lag effect, and we are hoping that it will have a positive impact.
Ms. Manju, is that answer your question?
Hello,
Thank you. Reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of K. Ramkumar from the Hindu Business Line. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. I just wanted to understand, what will... Hello?
Yeah, go ahead,
Hello?
please. Go ahead.
Yes. What is the outlook on NPAs actually? In a rising interest rate scenario, normally one would expect, some kind of pressure on NPAs. Okay. So what is your outlook on NPAs for FY23?
As far as wherever we had a slightest doubt, we have already provided for. So I don't think so that we should have any surprise coming from NPA. And as far as NPA, the other thing which one should be mindful is the behavior of the borrowers also. So I would say that of late, the kind of borrowings which you have seen, it is more responsible borrowing. So that is why we are quite hopeful that we should not have much of challenge as far as NPA is concerned.
Yeah, and one more question regarding, now, will you be revisiting your underwriting norms actually? Yeah.
Can you please repeat the question about underwriting norm? What do you want to know?
No, I mean to say, given the kind of stress that the whole economy is going through now, okay, do you think it is time for you to review your underwriting norms?
No, see, the underwriting norms very clearly mention about the viability of the business. If at all there will be viability, there will be strength for the company to honor their obligation for interest repayment and meet their principal liability, then only they really meet out the muster for underwriting. So I think the underwriting norms are very clearly articulated. I don't think it really warrants any kind of a revision in underwriting norms. And as far as risk is concerned, that actually carries out very independent assessment about the risk obtaining in various industries. So based on that, they give the guidance. So I think we have very elaborate process in place, and we don't really envisage a situation where we need to revisit any of these.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, you may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Anil Kumar Pandey from the front page. Please go ahead.
Yeah, congratulations, Mr. Chairman, for double-digit growth almost on every parameter. My question relates to COVID resolution plan 1 and 2. What is the status of overall restructuring under COVID restructuring plan 1 and 2?
Our total restructuring book in 1 and 2 currently is around 30,000 odd crore. And the stress, I think, is, how much is the stress? Actually, when it comes to the restructuring book also, a significant portion of that is into the retail personal, which is about 15,498. And as I mentioned that we have started seeing a situation where people have started repaying as per their original repayment schedule. So there is hardly any stress which you observe. And the other important component here is about 12,446 is a SME. But I would like to mention that we have already created a provision of 30% as against 15% which was the requirement. So as of now we are not seeing much of a stress, but nevertheless even if it comes, we have fully insulated the balance sheet for any kind of potential risk to the book.
So in last quarter you have mentioned this COVID resolution plan 1 and 2 is 32,895 crores.
So part of it has been repaid. Part of it has been repaid now.
Yeah, that's a good news. So just for curiosity, if I calculate the NPA, you have mentioned your gross advance in the balance sheet 28,18,871 crore total gross advancing. So while calculating gross NPA, if in the numerator we add this 30,000 odd crores and divide by total loan, so what will be the stressed asset of the bank? Stressed NPA. Yes.
Coming to the first question, I think if you've seen the notes to accounts which we have published, number 18, we have given you the reconciliation for that. So out of 32,895, 1,793 that turn into NPA, but out of that, if you see the personal loan, that's quite less. Out of 15,541, only 143 crore that turned into NPA. But we found that 317 crore, they were repaid in normal course. Even in corporate space, what we found is that 1,650 turned into NPA, but 2,307 crore was repaid in normal course. So from that perspective, we have a considered opinion that this book is behaving in a normal fashion.
And on the top of it, whatever else is left out, just to take care of the potential risk from this book, we have already got this additional provision of about 7,900 crore which we have created up till now for the restructured book.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Do we have any other questions?
Yes, sir. The next question is from the line of Falak Nasir from the Asian Age. Please go ahead.
So can you give a breakup of the slippages? What were the write-offs? And also any plans to list SBI General Insurance?
See, quarter 4 slippages were 2,845 crore, and the write-offs, I think there's not really much. Maybe, Alok, do you have the number? We have not really gone for much of write-offs.
And
slide number 31 on the investor presentation, different breakup is available. You can refer to the site.
Sir,
Yeah, if you really look at it. In the full year, the write-off is 12,696 crore. That is the full year as compared to what it was in 17,590 crore in March 21.
the slippages on 2000, Q4 slippages, what is the amount you said?
No, 2,845 is the Q4 slippages.
Most of them are retail.
It would be mix. It would be mix. It is not. I don't think so. It is in retail. Retail has not seen that kind of a trend. In fact, we normally look at NPA plus SMA both. So I normally, when I look at it, I am seeing that the trajectory is NPA plus SMA is coming down significantly as compared to what it was in the previous years.
We will take two more questions from here. Abhijit sir.
Good afternoon, this is Abhijit Lele from Business Standard. This question pertains to the retail. In the priority sector lending, you had to buy any PSLC certificate this time, and how much has been, and how does it really compare with the last year?
We have bought the PSLC, and invariably we have seen that whenever the corporate book grows, in order to meet the priority sector target, it almost becomes necessary for us to buy the PSLCs. And that is what we have done this year. How much we have done it, maybe you can do. Question, SBI General listing. As I mentioned that we have nurtured these subsidiaries, and at a right and opportune time we will list them. Don't worry. And whenever we decide, we'll keep you informed. We'll wait for the right opportunity. There's not a time when we should go. This is what I believe.
Your corporate growth has been 11% plus, but how much of this would you think is purely driven by commodity price inflation? In the sense, is it going to be sustainable if inflation cools off?
No, actually in the month of March, there was, commodity price inflation was not as sharp. So I don't think so. It is all, maybe you can answer.
So I don't think we've got commodity related credit growth. If the requirement is there, then companies have come to us and asked for higher LC limits for imports and other.
That is normally, it shows up in the non-fund base, not in the fund.
Shows up in the non-fund, but not in the working capital limits. That hasn't happened yet.
Sangeeta.
Hello, sir. Sir, in the total loans that you restructured under OTR, what is the percentage of success? Or ballpark number? How much of it has been successful?
OTR?
The corporate loans, yeah, the OTR.
Do you have the number? Actually, it is all included in this book, but if at all you want the further slicing, maybe I'll ask the department to share with you.
No, I mean, you can tell me of overall individual plus OTR, corporate also. But some sense of how much has been, how has your experience been on OTR? Because we've seen...
I'll respond on the retail front. For example, majority, or almost in the retail personal, 10,000 crores is our home loan book, out of which in the resolution framework 1, we saw almost 83% of the borrowers paying even before the repayment started under the restructuring terms. Similarly, 68%, and 83% in restructuring framework 2, people started paying. So I think absolutely on the retail personal front, we don't see any slippages at all. MSME, there is a good performance in the resolution framework 2, whereas resolution framework 1 is showing some incipient sickness. That is what the general assessment of the portfolio.
But as far as the corporate restructuring was concerned, I would say the major accounts were 2, and out of which 1 was out of it at the appointed time itself. So that was more chunkier, and second one we have provided for.
So there were just 2 main chunkier ones.
2 main chunky accounts. So as far as book is concerned, it is clean, it is insulated from any shock.
Thank you.
We will not be able to take any further questions. Now I would like to call upon Shri Alok Kumar Chaudhary for vote of thanks.
So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good evening, because we are in the cusp of both the times. We are coming to the conclusion of this Q4 22 press conference, results press conference, and it's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks to all of you. So, we thank you because you took time in the sunny afternoon to come here and attend this event. I also thank the chairman, the managing directors, the dignitaries of the bank, and all the people who are connected to the webcast for listening to the entire press conference. I also thank all the people who are involved in this entire management, the PR team, the event managers, the telecom people, security and liaison for making this a grand success. So we are meeting after almost 2 years in a physical space, and I hope that in future also we'll be hosting such event, and we'll continue our dialogue in order to make you understand the bank's perspectives and performance in a better way. We admire you for your continued patronage of the bank, for understanding. Thanks a lot again. Till then, stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Sirs, if you can all rise for a group photo, please. Thank you so much. High tea is being served outside of the auditorium. Thank you.